Welcome to the We Inspire Futures podcasting project. Listen as Faculty of Education instructor Paul McGuire explains exchange mentoring. Also, how can expert students fit into our collaborative work with new technologies in the classroom? If you're new at this, Paul just might inspire you to take the next step. Paul, in your role as a consultant, you work with many teachers who are just starting out with technology for the first time in their classrooms. What are some points you bring up during those initial conversations?
The first one would be, can they find a mentor? Somebody at the school level. It's great to have other people who are supporting you, whether it's online environments or at a school board or district, whatever the case may be, because there's a lot of expertise there. But having somebody right at the school, preferably in the classroom next to you, if you really had your things, where you can go back and forth with ideas and help each other out, is an immense help when you want to get started. Oftentimes what happens with teachers is they want to try a new idea, and they say, this looks interesting, I'd really like to try this with the kids. And they get there and the technology fails for some reason. There's this one step that doesn't quite work. The projector blows a bulb. The board won't interact with you. The web application goes down for 3 hours. Whatever it is, there's always something. And typically when those things happen, teachers are too busy to spend 3 hours figuring out what went wrong there. If you've got somebody nearby who can say, oh yeah, I had that, and try this, so they can get past that little hurdle, often makes all the difference in the world. I watch this in other cases too, and it's not just about technology, it's about teaching in general, where you try stuff, and if you can run the idea by somebody else, they'll say, oh, have you thought about, or yeah, that looks really cool, why don't we? And from those types of conversations, not only do you get additional inspiration and different strategies to try, but it also gives you a background of people who have tried things themselves and run into those obstacles before, okay? And can give you just that little bit of help, which is all you really need. And I've worked at the board level. You won't get it from board resource teachers. They just can't respond that quickly. If they're on their smartphones, great. Maybe they can get back to you, but it's hard doing that when you've got 25 little bodies in front of you. So their response time is good, and they make every effort, but it's not the same as having somebody where you can just pop out of the classroom, call in, hey, Sue, I did this. Any thought? And if you can get a response that way, it makes a big difference. The other part about mentoring at a school level is that you get to talk about things after the kids leave and plan together, so that if you're doing something as a unit, perhaps with another teacher, and they've got some resources and you've got some resources, and those resources are going to be technological as well as associated other resources, it gives you the chance to go back and forth with them and learn from their experience and add to their experience from your own. So I really believe the whole mentoring at the school level, and I'm not even sure mentoring is the right word, because it has a sense of there's one person with a lot of experience and they, flow down their knowledge to someone else. I just like to think of it as a colleague, where you do have different skill sets, sure, but those can blend. So that's the kind of mentoring I'm referring to, as opposed to the flow down kind of mentoring that sometimes happens. It's the exchange mentoring, perhaps, is the best way to talk about it. Excellent. So I think that's really important for new teachers, for all teachers, whether they be, pre-service new teachers or have been around for a while and just want to try something different. There are other challenges that they're going to face when they get into their classrooms, and not the least of which will be just the technology itself. Every school is different. They all have different assortments of equipment and different approaches to technology in the school. And although districts do try to set out some parameters for what should be within each classroom or within each school, they're not. We've all experienced that. You go to one school and it's ramped up to here with new stuff, right? That's brand new. Another school that, like, nothing works here. And you've probably experienced that yourself, is my guess, at some point. So going in and assessing what's available, and then taking the best of what's available and utilizing it until you can move to something that you really want. And that might take a while, but assessing what you have and what's available is a good starting point for them in their use of technology. So.
And how do students fit in here? Do you see them as a collaborator in the classroom? And if so, tell us some examples of when you've seen this happen successfully.
Actually, great point, because in the last 2 mini summits we did, both the one with Mally and the year before, we asked teachers to bring their students with you to do the presentation to adults, okay, to CIOs, technology leaders, teachers, principals, etc. And they love the students, because the students give pretty honest feedback about what they're doing. And they can also give honest feedback to their teachers if their teachers are receptive enough to accept that honest feedback. So you have to be willing to let go a little bit for your students to have the freedom to say, oh, miss or sir, can we try this? Because I've got this at home and it works really cool. So bringing in the students to those presentations has been really eye-opening, I think, for a lot of people, to hear how they've contributed to their classrooms. Not just how they're reacting to what the teachers established there, but also how they've said, especially in secondary, we could try this, we could do this, we've done this, at home or in other circumstances, or we've done this with our band, or we've done this with our little club that we've had, or we've done this in Facebook, whatever, and we'd like to try doing this project this way. So two that I think of over the last 2 years, both secondary school teachers, one English department, one a mix of digital literacy, etc., that brought their students with them. These students contributed as much as they got. And the teachers were really expert teachers, okay? But the students were also expert students. And they brought new skills and new thinking into their classroom. Now, the teachers think this is great. And a good teacher can really work with this. Yes, I love that idea. And just as you said about the digital citizenship part, they can say when the students come to them, well, I really, saw this thing, it looks really cool, and I'd like to try it. Great, that's a great idea. How are we going to focus it around this concept? How will you apply that? Okay, good. Now, where are you going to get those materials from? And you're right, the digital citizenship is probably the weakest area, because, 5 to 18-year-olds just don't get the whole idea that there's something called copyright and there's something called, intellectual property rights, because they don't live with that. They live with Facebook, and Facebook's open, and you just share stuff and take stuff, right? So adding that piece to it, saying, okay, where are you going to get resources that you are allowed to use is a good question for them. Another good question is, how are you going to use those resources in a focused way to do this? Okay? Because the tool may be cool, but the tool's not the content. The tool's not the concept. The tool's not what we want to communicate to people or collaborate with them about. It's just the tool.
Thanks so much for tuning in to part 1 of Paul McGuire's Practical Ideas for Getting Started with Technology. Please share your thoughts with us. How have you involved your expert students in the technology tools of your classroom? We'd love to hear your voice.